Ah, education. The word that rhymes with vacation and also keeps you away from your parents 8 hours a day. Coincidence? I don't know, never took that course. School is a 12-year journey. You got high school, middle school, preschool, and pre-preschool, where kids think the struggle has just begun. They're in for a surprise. Everyone at the age of 5 gets into the system, trying to learn in order to improve their quality of life. But is this the only way to approach it? High school is kind of like endgame. There's lots of people that are there, watching it, through the runtime, they're kind of bored. They enjoy it, maybe not, maybe so. And then at the end of it, they're all in tears, sobbing into their cheeseburgers, asking themselves the big question, do I really need this to be successful? Or what's next? I know that's what I did. Usually, at the end of high school, we move into post-secondary and then move into different careers. They can be classified by different colors. The colors of their collar. That's kind of a tongue twister. Blue, minimum wage careers. These are guys that do their best, but that's what they gotta do. Red, government jobs. Green, environmental jobs. And then in between, you have white to gold. The difference between these are like the difference between the Canadian currency and the American currency. It's just about the value, if you know what I mean. But nowadays, with TikTok and YouTube making 15-year-olds as profitable as the Kardashians, you got two new collars. The new collar, which are people that attend vocational schools, pick up technical skills, and without going to high school without going to post-secondary for a long period of time, and they make a fair amount. And then you got the black collar, the new guys in the block. They're creatives. They're only passionate about making art, and they've found a way to turn that into a career. Now, what does this ultimately mean? What does this ultimately mean? Does this mean you have to be in one of these colleges to be successful? Can you switch between different collars? How hard is it to get out from one field into another field? These are the big questions. These are the topics of tonight. We will be exploring, do you need formal education in order to be successful? Do you need the system in order to have a future? With me today exploring these questions, we have two amazing guest speakers. Number one is Dr. Samih. He's the Chief Scientific Officer of Fedora Pharmaceuticals. You may also know him from the Arif Foundation, where he works with a team to provide future aspiring, successful people, young students with scholarships. Also with him is not doctor, but rather businessman, passionate about the youth, entrepreneurial spirit, Ali Osman. He is the general sales manager of Kentwood Ford around the block, and also the founder of Movement, an organization that looks to inspire on the entrepreneurial spirit amongst the youngsters in our community. Please give them a round of applause and welcome them to the stage. Come on in. Whew.
Thank you. Beautiful introduction.
Thank you. On screen should be showing our sponsors, I believe, for the day. So before we get into the topic and the discussion for today, I would like to thank Beauty of Baraka for sponsoring today's episode, and we will hear a bit more from them at the end of this. But first and foremost, let's get to know our two guests. Dr. Samih, you are the Chief Scientific Officer of Fedora Pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
You told me it's kind of like the hat. I need to know, where did you come up with that?
So Fedora is a drug discovery company.
Yeah.
We work on the discovery of antibiotics to address antibiotic resistance. So the company was founded in 2015.
Wow.
And with the goal of really creating and generating new antibiotics to address antibiotic resistance.
I see.
This is a big global issue. Is this better?
Yeah, it's a pretty big issue. Sorry we're having technical difficulties. By the way, guys, you might notice this is episode 1, so things might be a bit choppy. Please have patience with us, and please leave your comments and tell us how to improve, because we're always looking for ways to be better. But yeah, super viruses and things like that, I'm sure like that's what you deal with, right?
Yeah, so we deal with antibiotic resistance. We hope to come up with new antibiotics to address the antibiotic resistance
Yeah.
issue, which is a global issue now.
Yeah.
A lot of
It's in the
countries,
spotlight.
most countries in the world are dealing with that, and it's probably something that will, we figure by 2050, we probably will have 10 million people dying every year from
Wow.
antibiotic resistance. So it's
Wow.
something that is coming. It's going to make COVID-19 look like a blip on the radar, unfortunately, if it's not addressed. today.
SubhanAllah.
So that's where the company comes from, and the name Fedora comes from the company because it's antibiotics, and Fedora protects us, and
Yeah.
hat protects us, and so that's
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Chief Scientific Officer. What is that? Is that like just specific to pharmaceutical companies, or is that just a profession anyone can get into?
So a chief scientific officer for any organization is a person that really coordinates the research activity of that organization. It doesn't have to be in pharmaceutical. It could be a biotechnology company.
Yeah.
It could be something to deal with electronics, artificial intelligence, in any field essentially
Yeah.
that requires research. And there's usually an individual that coordinates the research.
That sounds like a really fascinating
It is,
position.
yeah. Yeah, it's something that we enjoy. It's something that I like, and I think it's something that takes a while to get to into a
Yeah.
position like that. But alhamdulillah,
Alhamdulillah.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing some stories about that.
Yeah.
Ali, tell me a bit about yourself too. So we introduced you as a general sales manager, and you guys didn't see it, but off screen, I shook his hand, and you can tell this guy is a pro handshaker. Yeah,
So I'm a sales manager at Kentwood Ford.
yeah,
It wasn't growing up. It wasn't something that I thought I would do. Right. Growing up, I was just like you and probably everyone else. I was giving the options of becoming either a doctor or an engineer. And,
yeah,
I chose engineering. I did school for 2.5 years at
Yeah.
university, and after I didn't feel that this is something that I wanted to do
Yeah.
for the rest of my life. So I had a job as a car salesman for during the summer, in between years, and I really liked it. So I decided that's kind of what I wanted to pursue. So alhamdulillah, I got into that, and I've been in the business now for close to 8 years.
alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, I moved my way up different positions: finance manager, internet sales manager now, and moved around within GoAuto until I got to this position, alhamdulillah, at Kentwood Ford, where I originally had kind of started out. So,
Yeah, it's kind of cyclic in a way.
sorry.
That's a full circle story.
Yeah, for full circle, I kind of liked it at the dealership there, but I was looking obviously for a promotion to move up, and I didn't have the opportunity at the time, so I ended up moving around. But eventually, I always wanted to come back. Eventually, there was an opportunity for me to come back in the position that I wanted. So alhamdulillah, I was able to get that position 2 years ago, and I've been back at Kentwood Ford for 2 years.
Alhamdulillah. You guys both sound like you had quite a journey to get to your positions, even though like there may be some differences in your age. Like I'm sure like a couple of years apart.
Yeah, that's
He could be
it.
my son.
Yeah. But yeah,
I'm a couple years older, yeah.
Yeah, you might have taken like different paths to get to your positions, and I think that gives you different perspectives on what it means like to pursue a goal, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like why I personally am really happy to have you both here to discuss this topic on what it means to be successful, and whether you need a formal education and the traditional path, or you can go outside the loop and be a bit creative about it, right? So let's get into the topic and begin with, first of all, what does it even mean to be successful?
Yeah.
So, is that your paycheck?
I think that everyone has a different definition of being successful, and I think that everyone's journey when they're growing up, the first few years is just defining what success means to you, right? The idea that we're given, about what success is in our society is that having a nice house, having a car, having
Yeah.
a family, that kind of stuff. But really, you just have to find out what makes you happy, right? And myself, I kind of did my research about, in our deen as well, in our religion. And in my opinion, my definition of success is to be successful on your own, to be able to provide for your family, to be able to complete your own goals, but also to be in a position where you're able to give back to the community,
Yeah.
right? And I think that everyone should strive for that. I think that if you are able to get yourself to a level where you're able to give back and help the community, then that's what true success for personal and for our deen as well.
Yeah. Seems like you took a lot of introspection to come to that goal.
Yeah, for sure. It took me a lot of thoughts and a lot of years, right,
Yeah.
to come to that. Yeah.
Yeah. But with that definition, is career actually bound to the definition, or is it just a way of life then?
I think, again, some people choose a certain career. Like some people's goal is just to get to that career, to have that career, or have a certain position, or get a certain promotion, right? But I think that everyone should look past it. I don't think that your career or what you do for making money is your end goal, right? I think the stuff that outside of that is really what you're striving for, and it's your career, your job is just a means for you to get there.
I see.
Right? I think that most people would decide not to work, if they didn't have to, right? Or maybe work on something else that wouldn't even pay the bills.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of in our society forced to choose a career, to be able to, sustain yourself. And
these are like the typical norms, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Dr. Simi, do you agree with anything been said, or you disagree?
No, I completely agree. I think success is with a small s. It's not a capital S, just because you cannot really define success globally. I think each individual will define success in their own terms, and will find success in their own satisfaction of satisfying a passion that they have. And I think the most successful people in the general generic term definition are people that have done what they are passionate about.
Yeah.
And if you find your passion and you pursue your passion, chances are you will succeed. Just because that's what you're passionate about, you'll work the hardest. And the most unhappy people are probably people that found themselves following a career because somebody else told them to follow that career path, and not necessarily what they were really passionate about. Some might realize that and do a career change and pursue a dream that they've always had, and some might not. And I feel that success is what, at the end of the day, that you feel and you look back and you feel very happy that you have pursued, and it's a dream that you have, that you've always chased.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. I think that's success in my definition.
I see. So I said in the introduction, a lot of kids, when they go through this, like maybe this could also come back to societal norms. It's to improve the quality of life, right? Yeah. And undeniably, the amount of money you have affects your quality of life, right? So what if you have a passion project, something that you just said, like you just referred to, but this passion project is definitely not lucrative. There's no return on investment in it. It's just give. And not even in a generous sense. It's just burning yourself out, and there's no return for you, and you're just diminishing your quality of life. Can that person even aspire to something that's like any semblance to success?
I don't believe the measure of how much you have in the bank is a measure of how happy you are.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of people with 8, 9-digit number bank accounts are probably the most unhappy people in the world. And some people that have really little income are probably the happiest. So I don't know if money is a measure of happiness. I think it's the satisfaction that I talk about. If you have something and you're doing something, most of us don't really need a very expensive car. And I focus on the word need. It's not about an expensive car or a big house or, a vacation or a yacht. It's more about really what you absolutely need for the necessities of life. Anything over and above that is bonus. As long as you are happy, you're healthy, your kids are healthy, your spouse is healthy, and you're all happy within that environment, I think anything over and above that becomes artificial. And you can never satisfy that artificial because there's always more that you want to have. I don't want to get too philosophical.
No,
here,
but you're definitely right.
We need to define to anybody really that's watching here is that don't look at somebody's bank account and measure their happiness by how many figures they have. That's absolutely untrue.
And I think Islam also plays a great factor when you're talking about satisfaction, because if you're pursuing the worldly life and you think it's a finite game and only what you get in this world is your end game, then you're just going to be in the pursuit and never have that satisfaction at the end goal. But when you understand the akhirah and the greater pursuit beyond this dunya, then you are more you're more at ease in your soul, and you're more capable of achieving satisfaction in that sense, right?
100%.
Yeah, so there definitely needs to be a discussion when we talk about balancing education and Islam. Inshallah, we'll get to that. But coming back to the topic at hand, so the societal norms, they refer to going to from preschool all the way through high school, right? And typically, what we see now is the structure of going through the system like in a fashion where it's been the same since the early 1900s, right? As a matter of fact, your son just recently finished
Yes,
this, right?
he just graduated high school.
Yeah, so congratulations to
Thank
him.
you.
Alhamdulillah, I think that is an accomplishment, yes, right?
And a
Well,
shout out to him.
Yeah.
He's watching.
By the way, his classmates are the one behind the camera. His classmates are the ones on the computer too. So shout out to all those young men, and inshallah we'll have a bigger team in the future, right?
Yes, inshallah.
And that is an accomplishment to him. But what if there was a different way to accomplish the same goals? What if there was a way to go outside the system and perhaps be self-taught? Is that something you foresee coming about in the future?
I think that now, if you're talking about the school system and post-secondary, well, the school system is something that everyone has to go through, right, by law. But when it comes to post-secondary, I think that it's not the only option of education. And I think that growing up in our society and in our community, we're taught that almost the only way to become successful is to go through post-secondary, right? But there's many ways to learn and to educate yourself. I think that education is important, is a must for each person. But post-secondary is only made for certain people, right? At the end of the day, universities and colleges, they're businesses at the end of the day, right? They make money off of student tuitions, right?
Yeah.
And it's not cheap, right? So
Yeah.
it's not something that
Yeah.
I would suggest someone to go into if they're not 100% confident that this is what they want to do, because it's a big amount of money that you're spending.
Puts you in debt.
Yeah, and the reality is you don't have to go to post-secondary to educate yourself, right? For me, when I left the university and pursued my career, I was learning a lot of things on my own, researching, talking to people, reading a lot of books, and a whole bunch of different topics that I found to be interesting. When I was in university, I chose engineering because I was interested in a specific part of it, right, which is computer engineering, but I had to learn a whole bunch of other things that were pretty much useless to me, right? And weren't going to benefit me, would never help me with even, my career, if I graduated as an engineer. So I think it's made for people who know for sure, I want to go to school, I want to become a doctor, I want to become a pharmacist, I want to become a dentist, whatever the case is, then you have to get a degree in the university in order to land that career, right?
Yeah.
But if that's not your passion, you can find other ways to educate yourself, and there's many other options for that, right?
So I just want to add maybe to that. I agree to some extent that I finished my PhD 30 years ago.
MashaAllah.
Actually, this year will be 30 years ago
Wow,
when I finished
mashallah.
my PhD. And I think we all get to a certain point in our lives where we start to reflect on what we have done and where we have been and the journey and what has really been useful, what hasn't been useful. And until today, I still use information that I have learned in the mid-80s in my today's life. So things that I have learned, they just keep coming back. And eventually, you may not really understand or appreciate the value of what you're learning today, but at some point, it comes back to you. When it comes back to you, it's a painting that's just not finished.
Yeah.
And you'll go back to that painting and you'll start to see areas where you can always improve on. So when you take high school, for example, you take high school really to build the individual, to build the character in you, and to try and explore where your passion are. The role of education, although it's not perfect, I think there are areas that it can be improved, and I hope we can delve into that topic tonight. But the role of education up to that really high school is to really to try and get you to a position where you have learned the very basics. You really you reach a point where you can start to explore where your passion is.
Yeah.
You might be passionate about exploring more. You might be passionate about building things. So post-secondary education takes that passion and puts it in a format that now can be translated into a profession.
Yeah.
So by finishing high school, I think the painting is not finished. and it needs to be taken to the next level, where you now take that, all of that you've learned, focus on a particular area, and translate that knowledge into an expanded knowledge. Even after you finish your bachelor, you still have room. So it depends really what you want to do with it. So in a traditional sense of education, I think there's a role for each stage in where you go with life. So I don't want to really, and I disagree that universities are businesses. Universities there are really to build that knowledge. It takes all of that knowledge that the professors have learned and the world has learned, and tries to put it into smaller volumes for you to take that knowledge, and gives it to you with the hope that you can take that now and run with it. So
I see.
There's a role for each stage of education.
Yeah. So what I've noticed is, like, you've also kind of said there's two components that there might be, like as you were talking about earlier, the legitimate, like, actual data information that you're absorbing, but then there's also the building of the individual, like the developing your character over a period of time, right? Because we're in the information age, and I feel if we're talking strictly of just a data stream, learning, like, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, like, those exact facts.
Yeah.
You can just pull out your phone and be, okay, Google, what is this, right? Or you can just YouTube it and watch a specific tutorial, or Khan Academy or Patrick GMT. There's, like, tons and tons of, like, ways to gather that information, right?
Yes.
But character development, it's actually something that I didn't even think of, like, as an individual over like my learning, over my schooling, right? Because I've always been focused on the information stream.
Just came back from a search.
I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, so I haven't really been focused on, like, the actual character development. And I think, like, you're saying it's been used in like phases, or like incremental periods over time, as you go through high school and whatnot.
Yeah.
Can also be, like, paralleled in just extracurriculars, right?
Yes.
So what if, for example, you took that information stream, just the straight data from whatever digital interface you learn from, but you get that character development, that social or the entrepreneurial spirit, or the understanding of integrity, or even the understanding of pushing yourself to study harder when you don't need to, so your brain matures, right?
Yeah.
What if you get that from other things, not the school system, like extracurriculars, volunteering with the groups, like non-profits, or volunteering with Masajid, even playing sports on your own, and then you completely split them? Is that an approach you think will be something looked at in the future?
You can go ahead.
So I'm passionate about the extracurricular piece, and I said before, the education system now, I've always looked at it as incomplete.
Yes.
It has not really evolved with the time.
Yes.
Professions, we're still teaching the students, as you said before, in the same way for almost 100 years, in the exact same fashion, where you're learning the basic science, the core subjects, etc., etc. But however, are we really building that individual? I believe that, and if you history teaches a lot of things. There was the Industrial Revolution, and now we had the information revolution, and now we're starting to go into God knows what revolution. The jobs that existed 20 years ago don't exist today. And the jobs that never existed 20 years ago have become big jobs. And I bet you the jobs that we have today, some of those jobs 20 years from now will disappear. So unless we focus on new trends that are happening and take that child as they grow and build the character, build that passion earlier on. There was a session that we had for Arif in an Arif Gala last year where we talked about this. How can you take that individual now and tailor them to look for a career much earlier in life, not wait for high school. Like I said, that's the stage, but not wait for high school. Start at a much earlier year in their life and start to build that. Involve them in technology, involve them in science, involve them in research, involve them to be curious, involve them in the political life, in the financial life, in the technology life at a much earlier stage. So by the time they're 15, you talked about the 15-year-olds that are multimillionaires. These are people that have looked outside the box. So is the education system today ready for that? I don't think the education system right now is doing these kids a lot of favor. It needs to think outside the box. It needs to build a new generation. So
Yeah.
I am passionate about the extracurricular, and I think we need to think outside the box.
Ali, what are your thoughts on going outside the box like this?
Well, again, I think, like I was saying, that post-secondary is not, I don't think it's a must for everyone, right? Education is important, but I don't
Yeah.
think post-secondary education is designed for everyone.
Yeah, but what about
Right.
earlier stages in life when it comes to building a mindset?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of things that are missing in the education system. So,
Yeah.
for example, me being in my field, I noticed that a lot of young people who come, for example, to purchase cars from our dealership, they don't know how financing works. They don't know how credit works.
Yeah.
They don't know how any basic money management. They don't know, right? And school doesn't teach you that. And when I was getting closer to the end of high school, I thought that at some point in time they're going to teach that in school, right?
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, well, now high school's done. Now I'm going into the next stage in my life, and I wasn't taught how to really manage my money. I wasn't taught about credit. Credit was a whole new thing, that
Yeah.
came out of nowhere, basically. And by the time that people realize, what they're missing, it's too late. You don't know what credit is. You're able to sign a contract, right? You're able to finance something. You're able to take out a phone plan. You miss some payments, and now it affects your credit, right? So by the time you even learn that there's something
Yeah.
called credit that exists, your credit's already messed up.
Destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. And then now you come to finance something, and you're higher interest rate, right?
Yes.
High, and now you can't do anything except to take it, right? So I don't know. It's hard for me to think. I mean, as someone who, a university or post-secondary, whatever the case is, they spend a lot of time doing research. Like that's basically what they do. It's hard for me to think that after all these years, they couldn't research, what they have to teach students, right? Up and coming. So, I mean, it seems to me that it might not be a coincidence. Maybe part of our economy is that, young people start at higher interest rates, right?
I don't know if there is a big conspiracy there. I think education, not just in the sense of a traditional education going to university, but education in the sense of knowledge is where the gaps exist. There's the academic knowledge that you learn from school and from university.
Mm-hmm.
There is the daily knowledge, like you said, financing, understanding the political life, understanding how governments work, etc. That's another part that's really not necessarily taught at depth at school.
Yeah.
Skill, kids finish university and they still don't know how to balance their checkbooks. Not the checkbooks now.
But yeah.
There's no such thing as checkbooks in this generation. But the third thing is the extracurricular activities, hobbies, etc. So these three pieces are not really very well balanced, and I think that's where the emphasis probably needs to go
Yeah.
more.
I think there's some extra things that we can focus on extracurriculars, but I don't think learning financial education is an extracurricular. I think it's a must.
It's a necessity, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean,
But-
I wouldn't say that it's a conspiracy, but it's just, is it a coincidence that no one is taught that in school? I don't know.
Do you think as a society, or like even as a community locally, it's our responsibility now to fill in those gaps that the education system is filling at currently? Should we, as step up as community leaders and help develop the financial understanding of our youngsters? Should we create these extracurriculars? Like you, for example, you have a project going on, a passion project,
Yeah.
and you are probably gonna fill gaps that the education system has, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's now anyone with the knowledge, such as perhaps either of you guys, has a responsibility to give back to the community in that way?
I would like to think that by creating ARF, the Rashid Education Foundation, that we have created some sort of an incentive. We have a subtle intent within ARF to try and expand beyond the traditional jobs.
Yeah.
And so when we have established ARF 7 years ago, the idea was that we wanted just to create an incentive program for students to really just award, and recognize the well-achieving students, and to say, look, your local Muslim community recognize and appreciate the hard work that you have done. But now we are shifting, going we don't want you just to go to medicine, engineering, and law. We want you to go to the other fields. There's a million other fields out there, whether they are now existing or emerging, and we wanted to explore that. So when we issue new scholarships now within IRE, we're actually going in that direction. We're going outside of the traditional field because we want to pull the youth away from the traditional thing, because I think those traditional fields are satisfied and we're doing very well. It's those other fields where I think there's a missing gap. So we want to see students pursue those. Artificial intelligence is a big thing.
Yeah.
Edmonton is a world leader in artificial intelligence. I haven't seen a single Muslim student pursue artificial intelligence. I'm starting to pursue neurosciences. It's alhamdulillah. We see some of our Muslim youth pursue neurosciences, pursuing some research. But if you look at the academic field, there's a big discrepancy between the presence of Muslims and non-Muslims. I'm digressing here a little bit, but I just want to say maybe we should expand beyond.
And I do think that, again, my definition of success that I've come to is that, you get to a point where you have to give back to the community. So if you feel that there's something missing, like, and Dr. What he feels is missing is expanding to different fields, right?
Yeah.
What I feel is missing is maybe the entrepreneurial side of things, right?
Yeah.
There's not many, we're not taught to, again, that's another thing with school and post-secondary that I feel is that they teach you how to work for somebody. They teach you how to be an employee, right? It's basically like a skilled labor position, right? It doesn't teach you how to become your own boss, to develop, to create a new business idea, and that's what we actually need to do in order to better our community. We have to have our own, fate in our own hands. We can't be, working for someone else. We have to be working for ourselves. We have to be, a Muslim who creates a business and hires, other young Muslims and teaches them, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that there's a big, gap in this on the entrepreneurial side of things, where that's what I'm trying to bring up and teach people that if you follow your passion and what you were saying with the passion project, I think every passion project can be turned, into a business. You can find a way to monetize it if you're creative enough.
Yeah.
Right. So if you focus on your passion and you work to grow that into a business, you can live by doing what you enjoy.
Yeah. So this mindset of being creative and finding a way to monetize your passion.
Yeah.
And this like entrepreneurial spirit, it requires a lot of motivation, right? And alhamdulillah, you said you have scholarships as an incentive to motivate the well-achieving students to achieve even higher, right?
Yes.
But what about those kids that have the potential to be a great entrepreneurial spirit, or like have the potential to be great entrepreneurs? What motivates their spirits, right? And what about the kids that don't want to work for someone to take control of themselves? What motivates them to move outside the cookie cutters and like expand and drive them into that mindset?
Yeah. Well, the issue we have is that if somebody wants to come and start a new business idea, it's hard to find funding for it, right? And of course, I mean, it's going to be tough for someone with the money to invest, their money, someone who doesn't have any experience.
Yeah.
But that's why, in my opinion, if someone's passionate about doing their own thing or becoming an entrepreneur, well, you're going to go to post-secondary. You might, dive into something that you're not 100% sure you're going to, pursue.
Yeah.
And I mean, the cost of a 1 year tuition now could be, 10 grand plus, right? Mm-hmm. You can definitely easily start a small business for that kind of money, right?
Yeah.
And experiment with it.
You can't take a student loan to start that business.
Sometimes people pay, sometimes their parents are willing to pay for that.
Yeah.
Sometimes their parents are willing to pay their tuition, right? So instead of that, why are parents willing to pay tuition and not willing to pay them maybe to go and start out and start a business idea? If you pay for your child's tuition in something that they're not 100% confident they're going to pursue, it could end up being a waste as well, right? So maybe they start up a business, maybe it doesn't work out, but they're going to learn life experiences, right? And that's the only way they're going to learn. And I've seen many successful businesses that started in a basement or a garage or just outside, the house. A few of my friends that I know just started buying and selling cars and turned that into a business, right?
Yeah.
Very, alhamdulillah, successful business, just from starting out with, a few $1,000s, right? Yeah. So I think that's something that's lacking, and people should not look down upon, someone who's young and wants to pursue this path, and instead give them the push, because that could, lead into a much better future for them and for their community, right?
I see. That's like a really good thought process. But like these learned experiences, these self-taught skills that come when you go down this pathway, they don't give you a certification. Mm-hmm. You don't have like credentials
Yeah.
for other people to accept you. On your resume, it's just like, I tried this, I made these mistakes, but I learned from these mistakes. So you kind of have to like give your entire backstory for another, like say you fail and you want to move on and you want to partner up with someone, you have to give them your entire backstory. You just can't say, hey, this is my credentials from this X, Y, and Z, right? So those are really tough barriers to overcome, right? And it takes like a really tough mentality for someone to take that jump, right? Do you
100%.
think we just have to make people tougher in order to take that jump, that leap of faith into the entrepreneurial side of things? Or do we have to facilitate as a community, like a system for them to
Yeah.
easily move over?
So there are two parts to that question. The first part, I think, is, and I keep going back to education and the education system. Do we have within the education system the ability to foster that entrepreneurial spirit that a youth has? You know, somebody that does not want to go to medicine, does not want to go to engineering, does not want to be an academic.
Yeah.
They really feel that's true. You know, entrepreneurs are born, they're not taught. That's
Yeah.
what I believe. And you are born as an entrepreneur from a very young age, and you start to show signs of your entrepreneurship. Do we have in the infrastructure right now a system whereby we can take that entrepreneurial spirit and build it and help guide it towards success at the end? So that's the first part. And then there's the role of the community. How is the community willing to take the risk on that young individual who wants to pursue an entrepreneurial life? Do we have the mentorship program?
Mentors, that's a big...
Exactly. Do we have the mentorship program for those youth to be able to teach them from the lessons of other entrepreneurs that have failed and they have the scars on their back to show of the failures they've had? Most of the successful entrepreneurs have failed far more many times than they have succeeded in life. So all of these lessons, can we take these entrepreneurs from our Muslim community and ask them to be mentors for people that want to be entrepreneurs? And then the cycle will just keep going round and round. You know, the older will teach the younger, and then the younger
that
becomes
positive
old.
feedback loop.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of feed back into that community. So I think you're absolutely right. You know, we don't have anything set in place. Other communities do. But unfortunately, in our Muslim community, I don't think we have some. We have something just about to start. I want to give a plug in to Max Mentors, which is just establishing in Edmonton here. And this is a group that's just coming out of Toronto. And they would like to set up a mentorship program in here. And it is to do exactly what we're talking about. But they're still small, they're still very young, and they have a long way to go. So
Inshallah, they're successful.
Inshallah, they'll be successful. So our youth can benefit.
Yeah, and that's what my plan is to do with Movement as well, is to start a membership program, and right now we're kind of building a foundation. We're starting with education, right?
Yeah.
Inspiration, right? Motivation for people who have these thoughts, and the networking, right? And once the networking's in place, we're going to be all able to share things. But it has been tough to find some mentors in the community who want to just sit down, because the best way to learn the entrepreneurial side of things is to have a mentor, and actually the best is a one-on-one mentor. Right? So they can actually sit with every day and learn, and that's the best way to do it, right? But also I think that anyone who's interested in becoming an entrepreneur, they should take that step themselves. Maybe reach out to someone and say, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing. Can I basically be like an intern, right? I'll work for free for a few months and just learn what you're doing and shadow you, right? So that's another part of it as well. But just to touch on something that you said before, you said that going in and becoming an entrepreneur, pursuing that is something that's tough and it has a high risk of failure, right? Yeah. But I'd say that anything in life has the same risks. I mean, if you're going in and you want to study to become a doctor or a pharmacist, it's not easy. No. Right, and you could end up spending a lot of money, right, tuition, and you finish your sciences and you apply to get into medicine and you don't make it, and now you're stuck with a sciences degree, which at least you have it, but I mean, realistically, that's not really going to land you a huge career either. You know what I mean? So I don't think you should be scared of the risk, right? If someone's passionate about something, they should jump in, right? And I read somewhere, something very, very good, and they said that you should spend your money for experiences, not just not just education, not just
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
right?
Take the risk.
Yeah, take the risk. If you don't become successful in it, if you fail, which is bound to happen, you're going to fail a few times, 100%. But at least you've gained experience, and you can't put a price on the experience, right?
Yeah.
I totally-
So you said, I don't think people should be scared, right?
Yes.
That's a pretty bold statement because you can't just say, don't be scared, just do it and expect someone to do it, right?
Yeah.
I think it requires a lot of things to go in to get a person to accept that statement. One of it is inspiration. Alhamdulillah, our community, especially our community that has migrated into the country, really likes putting academics and doctors on pedestals, right? And I think they do deserve it, right? Doctors and like people of these high like caliber educations, they actually do contribute to society. But there's also the flip side of it. We also put down people that like try and make it in their own, right? And because of that, there's not people like that serve as the inspiration for those people who you say don't be scared. So how do we get those people to flip their mentality and allow those
Well,
to be
I think that,
inspirations?
when I was young and, my parents, right, and people, like, Dr. He was like pushing people to go into education, things like that. You're going to take that and you're going to put it in your mind, right? So if the older generation's pushing the younger generation to pursue this and become an entrepreneur,
Yes.
they will feel more confident.
Yes.
And that's going to help them overcome, the fear, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't think, me as someone who went to school, I wasn't worried about going to school and maybe not getting my money's worth, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think I would be scared. I think if you're young, you're not as worried about, losing a little bit of money or
Yeah.
starting again, because you haven't really built. You still don't have a family. You still don't have a lot of bills. Maybe you're still living in your parents' home. You're not as scared. It's more the older generation that's scaring you from doing something like that. They're telling you, go to school, get an education. That's
And
how
that
you're
is
going to
strong
become
influence.
successful.
Yeah.
Right? But if they told you, hey, pursue your passion, make a business, you'd feel a lot, better about pursuing that too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we got a question submitted from an audience member watching online. They say, how do you know when to quit? So I'm imagining they're referring to these, actually let's take it both ways. If you're pursuing an entrepreneurial career and you're starting off on your own and you've had a lot of failures, how do you know when to just call it a day and switch gears? Or say like maybe you failed a course 7 times. How do you know maybe this career is not for you?
So I believe if you wake up in the morning
Yeah.
and you're not looking forward to your day, you go into a job and you're not looking forward to your day, and if this is happening day after day after day, think seriously about what it is that you're doing. Perhaps this is not a job for you and you should really consider something different. You really need to have a reason to like what you do.
Yeah.
And this is why we always say, don't be afraid to try things and fail at them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a few tries before you find what you're passionate about. But you will know the day that you find what you're passionate about. And that day, every single day will be a brand new day for you. And you can't wait to get started.
And I would say from the entrepreneurial side, it depends on what your situation is, right? You have to, do the benefits outweigh the risk, right?
Yeah.
Or is it the other way around? Are you just talking about quitting in terms of you keep putting more and more money into something and you're not getting anything out? Then maybe you should have quit a long time ago, right? But if it's just a matter of time and you're still passionate about it, maybe that's not such a huge risk, right? Keep doing it if you're still passionate about it. Try new angles, learn something different, and keep going at it again. But if you lose your passion, then you should stop what you're doing, like what he was saying.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you keep putting money into something and it's not getting any, in my opinion, anyway, someone starting a small business shouldn't have a lot of overhead. They should start with something that doesn't cost you too much to run, and therefore it's not a huge risk. That means if you, as a young person, you have a lot of time, you have a lot of effort, but
Yeah.
you might not have a lot of money, right? So if you start a small business that doesn't cost you a lot, you can put in as much time and you can put in as much energy. You can work 10 hours a day. You're going to have the energy. You're still young, right? So if that's the case, then you're not risking a lot,
Yeah.
right? So if you're still passionate about what you're doing, keep doing it until you try every angle and basically lose that.
And talk to people. talk to people.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask.
That was the second thing, because you said inspiration and networking. So networking means talking to people, right?
You really need, yeah, exactly. And you know, in the business world, I mean, we both come from a you know, I work in a business, a for-profit, and for us, networking is absolutely one of the most important things. Whether I'm networking with scientists or you're networking with business people, at the end of the day, these relationships are really, you know, a lot of times they bridge the gap between success and failure.
Yeah.
And you really need to have the right people that you can go and ask, the people that you can rely on. Maybe if you're looking for investment money, or in my case, you know, I'm looking for, you know, a project to work on.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, I have to reach into my
got it.
contacts.
Yeah.
Off-topic question, kind of. People that say you don't mix family and business, blood and money don't go together. Do you think, from a business perspective now, because like we have to like if I'm doing something, I call up my brother, hey, help me out with this, right? But when it comes to like these financial situations, what are your thoughts on that, Ali?
I think people we haven't experienced it that much in our age group yet, right?
Yeah.
Because we haven't started all these big projects and things like that. But from the older generation, it seems like they've had some bad experiences with it, and that's why they're saying don't mix family and business.
Yeah.
I think that if you mix family and business and you make it work, it'll be a very, very strong relationship, and it will take you past other because when you start a business, one of the difficulties you have is you have to be there all the time because you can't trust someone else, you know, running your business.
Yeah.
But if it's your family, you should be able to trust that person to run your business
Yeah.
just as well as you are when you're not there, right? So I think if it comes down to what you put ahead. Do you put the money ahead or do you put the family relationship, right? And when it comes down to it, if you put your family ahead of the money, you guys are going to find a way to work together and become successful. As soon as you put the money ahead of your family, you're going to start disagreeing.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where things are going to fall apart, and that's where family relationships are going to break apart. But as long as you know, at the end of the day, I'm not going to, for example, you said your brother, I'm not going to lose my brother over the business,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to cheat your brother out of anything. You know,
Yeah.
if your brother seems to be upset about something in the business, you're going to maybe let him have it his way. You know what I mean? And it'd be a better relationship than actually having a business partner that you don't know as well.
Yeah, trust is a big factor.
Yeah.
All right, now to completely switch back gears. Earlier you said improving the education system, there's a lot to talk and discuss about there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, I think we touched on a number of points. Essentially, really, we have to be able to really look at building the individual and not just really try and set them up for an end where they reach really grade 12 and they still don't know what it is that they want to pursue. And I see this so many times with so many students where they are at grade 12 and they enter the university just because this is the traditional thing to do, but they still really don't know what it is that they want. So, you know, I think the education system right now is ready for that kind of change in what we deliver and how we deliver. And are we looking 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road? These professions that come and go are things that, you know, we have to pay attention to.
You have to be adaptable and switch to the future.
Yes.
So there's two last points I want to touch on. First of all, when you're talking about building an individual, alhamdulillah, we spoke about the actual academic streams of it, but motivation and character for pursuit of academia, right? Is there such thing as a lost cause student? And is there like a way to reinvigorate the spirit of someone to get them back into the habit of studying?
I think that that's one of the things actually I was going to touch on the question before with the education. That's an issue in our education system, I believe, because we grade a student based on, you know, an overall English, you know, math, science, you know, everything like that, where not everyone's going to be good at everything, right? Maybe someone just has one skill and it can be better than everyone else at, you know, math, for example, or even, you know, art or whatever the case is. I think if the education system highlighted those specific skills, that person's not going to feel like a failure, you know, getting a C grade, right? And feel like I should pursue what I'm good at. Going to the lost cause students, I think that's just, they haven't found their passion. The school system hasn't helped them to find their passion yet and find something that they're good at. I think that anyone who finds their passion in something that they enjoy doing will be more motivated to learn about it and better themselves at it, right? So I don't think there's a such thing, because I don't think anyone goes to school thinking I'm gonna fail. No one's gonna help me. You know, I'm just going to school to fail, right?
That is a downside of having the generic package and those metrics that are easy to assess rather than having that unique path for those individuals. Another thing is also some students skip grades and excel, right?
Yeah.
What if they just accelerated through a particular stream, like art? What if they're just like shot up through art or just math alone, but their English was average? Is that like something, that flexibility, do you think it should be more present in our systems?
Yeah. See, again, we're talking about a system that's, I think, it's well past its age. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think there is such a thing as a lost cause student, and the system, unfortunately, I don't think really has the capacity to deal with lost cause students. Each teacher is looking after 100 to 150 students. There's no way in time that the teacher or the administration is going to be address that percentage of students that really are within that range. And I think this is part of that system. The system is built this way, and it takes really sort of the median. And within that median, it's not the average, it's the median.
Yeah.
That's where the students need to fall. And unfortunately, on the left side of that are where the students that, just term the lost cause student. What is it in the system that can bring these students up?
Yeah.
Perhaps, like I said, we just don't see their passion. I think by going back into the earlier years where we start to look at students and really find out what their passion is and try to really help them from a very young age pursue where their potential passion is and really explore where they might excel in life.
Yeah.
Will address those, because like you said, some students are not very good at math. It's just they have a mental block at math, but you give them something else and they excel at it.
Yeah.
So does the system now, the system just basically takes the average of all of that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the good goes with the bad.
Yeah.
So
It's like that saying, you're trying to please everyone, and then everyone gets unhappy in a way.
and unfortunately, it's very upsetting for the student when they see they're trying their best.
Yeah.
And they're still not reaching really that minimum required. And they look at their peers. These first students, they go and study very, very hard, and they're still not achieving.
Yeah, and it's very
other students
demotivating.
really don't even study. They just spend half an hour before the test, and they get very high marks.
Yeah.
Well, that student naturally has an ability to do well at math. The other student doesn't. Does that make really this is a strong student, this is a weak student? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's just a fault in the system itself.
Okay. So, alhamdulillah, we've discussed many facets of education and the education system today. I would like to bring this to a conclusion, but before we go into that, the question was, do we need, actually the intent behind this episode was particularly to provide answers or shed lights on topics for especially students like your son who are now graduating and then going to the post-secondary, right? I actually didn't even know your son was graduating. It was a total coincidence, right? So for those individuals, youngsters watching at home, I hope that this sheds some light on those topics and areas, and I hope you take the chance to put some deep thought into what you will do with your future, whether it be completely unconventional or completely traditional. Because as we've established, there is no right or wrong. It just depends on that person, depends on their passion, depends on their circumstance. And for us to have given a generic answer would have been a major disservice. It's all down to the individual. Do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap this up? And also tell us a bit about your passion projects each.
So with movement, it's made to kind of fill that gap, or where maybe certain things are missed in the education system, and youth finds themselves, they don't know how to maybe manage their money, they don't know how to maybe network, maybe they need just a little bit of help, a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of motivation. So that's a big part of it. But I do want to emphasize that I don't think that post-secondary is a bad option. I just don't think it's made for everyone.
Yes.
Right? Because it's tough. If you're going to go in and experiment with it, I would say that money is better used elsewhere. Right? Follow another passion. Use that money in another passion. Right?
Okay. Thank you, Ali, for coming out today. And we will have movements under Instagram graphic on screen, inshallah. Also, we have a gift for you. So can someone please pass me that? Oh, thank you, my guy. Jazakallah khair. So, thank you for coming out today.
Oh, thank you so much.
This is for you, just a little treat. And
Thank you.
Dr. Samih, what is your passion project and what would you like to tell the community as you're here?
As you mentioned, I'm involved with the Rashid Education Foundation. This is our scholarship. This is our 7th year of scholarships.
MashaAllah.
Our scholarships will be offered starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Students can apply for scholarships
wow.
from various grades, starting from the fresh graduates, grade 12, all the way to the PhD students.
Yes.
We have scholarships in all fields. Rashid Education Foundation or rashideducation.org. .ca, sorry, that's our
Yeah.
website. So if you want to reach out and apply to that,
Excellent.
that's coming up right away.
You guys should see the image for the Al Rashid Education Foundation on screen. And by the way, the links to both of these will be in the description. And we also have a gift for Dr. Samih.
Oh.
It is from Beauty of Barakah. Their Instagram will be on screen. They actually sponsored and reached out to give this gift to us. So we're very happy to have them join us.
Oh, thank
this
you
is
so
for you,
much.
Doctor. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah
Thank you for
khair.
coming out
Thank you,
today.
sir. Thank you.
And as we bring the discussion to a close, we take a segue into the talents for today. Alhamdulillah, our community is rich and full of young adults,
Alhamdulillah.
young individuals that are talented and that deserve the spotlight, that they require, we owe it to them to give this platform, for them to have a shout out, for them to share with you what they are doing. And our guest for today is none other than a talented artist, Maryam. I will give her the stage, and inshallah, please stay tuned for a few minutes to see what she has for us today. Gentlemen, let us surrender the stage. I will just pass you my microphone. Actually, Doctor, your microphone is not, but mine is under my shirt for everyone watching at home. So we're just gonna pass it over. Perfect. This is all. Right, come on on screen.
Very nice. Well done.
Welcome, Maryam. Here you are. You can just. Whoa. Yeah, by the way, guys, this is episode 1, so things might be a bit sporadic. Do you want me to hold the art for you?
Sure.
And you can just hold the microphone up like that.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Maryam and I do custom art ranging from calligraphy to landscape, and I could do anything from acrylic to oil paintings. If you want any more information or anything, please reach me at jailanimaryam@gmail.com. JEILANIMARIM@gmail.com.
The link will be in the description.
Jazakallah
Yeah.
khairan.
No, wait. Quickly tell me. What did you even get into art?
I actually got into art when I was like in kindergarten. It was always something that I kind of did. And as I got older, I kind of connected it more towards my religion.
MashaAllah.
Jazakallah
Yeah.
khairan.
These are very, very pretty.
Jazakallah khairan.
What inspired you to make these particular pieces? And actually, just tell me about this one piece here.
This one piece,
Yeah.
I kind of paint calligraphy, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's one of my things that I kind of go into, especially when I'm stressed, because I guess as people say with art, it's a form of expression, and this is my best form of expression.
MashaAllah. That's really good. I really like it.
Jazakallah khairan.
Maybe I'll go and click that link in the description and get some for myself. All right, Jazakallah khair, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This has been episode 1 of Youth Strong. And if you'd like to join us, check out the links in the description. Once more, thank you, Maryam. Thank you, Dr. Samih. And thank you, Ali, for coming out. And thank you, everyone, for watching from home. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.